Hello, everyone. Hello, leaders. We welcome you to the ILDP 5.0 conversations. All right, I am your amiable host, and we're excited to explore tonight's conversations alongside our alumni from past cohorts. Now, let's do something quickly. Whilst you are sharing with us where you're joining us from, I want you to also curate your expectations for tonight's conversations. Also, don't do this alone. I implore you to copy out the link, share within your spheres of influence, and get everyone joining the conversations tonight. So let's do that quickly. Let's get as many of our leaders, siblings, family members on board tonight, or whether it's morning or afternoon from your end. Excitedly, I want to read from you. Where are you joining us from today? We have in the studio already our alumni, and they are super pumped to share from their experience. If you know anyone who has expressed so much excitement, so much, I would say, joy to be on board ILDP, this is the cue to not miss out on the spirit inspired conversations tonight. So let's be our sister's keeper. Let's be our brother's keeper. Let's be our kingdom leader's keeper and spread the news. So let's do that. So let's read from you. Let us know where you're joining us from across the world. We would love to read from you. Where are you joining us? I'm joining you or hosting you right here from Lagos, Nigeria. And we have some of our alumni panelists who are in the studio already joining us from across the world. So share with us quickly where you're joining us from. And as you're doing that, I want you to curate your expectations and put it up in the comment section. Share with us your expectations for tonight, for today's conversations. So let's get that on quickly. Good evening, Toy Onipa, my namesake. Good evening, Minister Evie. I see you. So good to see you as well. Good evening, Annie. Good evening, Mom Rory. Mom Rory is joining us all the way from the United Kingdom. So thank you. Thank you for joining us. All right, let's keep the introductions coming through just before we delve into tonight's conversations. Now, don't do this alone. As I said, whilst you're saying, hey, I want to get super inspired, I want to really draw in from the lessons from our alumni, invite your friends, invite your siblings, invite your loved ones to join us tonight. So don't do this alone. Be your brother's keeper. Share the links, blast it across your WhatsApp status, blast it across your stories, share within your communities, earn spheres of influence. Idomi, Idara, so good to see you. Welcome on board. Let us know where you're joining us from. And also curate your expectations for tonight's conversations. All right. So let's get onto that quickly. Excitedly, we have our alumni in the studio with us, and we would have them join us on stage in few minutes. Good evening, Lucy. So good to see you, family. Let us read from you. Again, share with us your expectations. Also, you know how we do it. Whilst we're trying to have this done, we would, of course, speak to how you can join us on this moving expedition of ILDP, right? We don't want you to snooze on what the Lord is doing. we are excited to have you join us on this journey, spiritual journey, as the case is. So good to have you on board as well. Joy is Oluwa. Let us know where you're joining us from across the world, as well as your set expectations for tonight. Okay, excitedly, we can then move on to welcome upstage our alumni from different cohorts, but particularly the last cohort, which was ILDP 4.0. Oh, exciting. Thank you, Lucy. Good to see you. Good to see that you're joining us all the way from Cameroon. Um, how do we say it in Cameroonian language? I think in French we would say bonsoir, Lucy. All right, Joy Isolua is joining us all the way from Abuja. Excited. All right, let's get into the nitty gritty of tonight's conversation. We know that the Lord has prepared a feast for us, and we are excited to get on this discourse. Now, just before we do that, you know how we do it? Get your journals, get a hot mug of tea or a jug or a jar of water, and get sleeping whilst you get fed through the insights we will pull through from tonight's conversation. All right, without further ado, I welcome upstage our first panelist, the valedictorian. Oh, thank you, Lucy. The valedictorian of the ILDP cohort 4 in no particular order, the one and only Ifeoluwa Kayla. Good evening, Ifeoluwa.
Hi, good evening, to be. Thank you so much. Thanks for the privilege to do this, and thanks for all the work you're doing. With ILDP, my own cohort, and all the previous cohort. And when I got this invite, I just like, oh, why not? Thanks for all that you're doing, and together with the team, and with PDDK. Thank you so much, and such a privilege to be here. And my pleasure to be here too this evening. Yeah.
Thank you so much, Ifeoluwa. All right, just before I bring up our next panelist, I want to read out Idomi Idara's expectation. She says, my expectation is to learn from other siblings as they share their experiences. So do you see that they are right in the room to truly draw from what you have to share from your experiences? And again, I would say you are in the right room. So don't do this alone. Get as many of your siblings joining in today's conversation. Now, without further ado, we're bringing on board our next panelist, the one and only Taylor Troops. We're back to the conversations, and let's have as many of us rejoin. Thank you so much. So thank you once again, Ifeoluwa. Thank you, Dr. Knighton. And I was trying to introduce our next, I think I had introduced Temi Ola. Yes, you are hearing. The conversations have just begun, and we're sitting into, what was life like for our alumni before coming on board ILDP? How did they have to redesign their life architecture to navigate the demands of ILDP? And we have pulled through powerful insights from our alumni. So let me know what you're hearing, and you can pop it up in the chat box. Now let's move on quickly. Whilst we would have Adetola join us, and she would speak to the earlier question. Now we know that the I in ILDP speaks to intensity. We know that ILDP speaks to both a spiritual leadership, speaks to both a leadership and spiritual discipleship dimension of the program. So I would want each of you to just share with us, what was the ILDP experience like in terms of the curriculum, the interactions across your discipleship cohorts, the evangelical or evangelism outreaches that we had to embark on, the weekly intercessions that undergirded, every interaction, the accountability trackers, walk us through that experience. And what I would say spiritual directions, what spiritual transformations were bettered in that experience, and even post ILDP going forward. So I'll start with Ifeoluwa, and then we'll move on like that. So Ifeoluwa, over to you.
Yeah, thank you once again. Yeah, as I just reflect on this, to summarize the experience for me was more an art humbling and hammering experience. uh, because even though, the whole motivation I've gotten, from my wife to apply and, applying and, I think there's this, this discipleship cohort placement and, and so I was, the placement result was to be placed, in spiritual child. I was like, how come? Like, like, and this is more like, I mean, by virtue of, privilege and everything, and my commitment, like personally, like to knowing God, hearing God, and things I've been doing, even work around ministry, especially in the teaching ministry for almost 2 decades. And I mean, it's not just about the length in terms, but in terms of, the depth and all of that. So when that came, it changed I was like, this one that is like, they don't, I can't trust this thing, but I can't forget, what my wife said again, talking about accountability, about remember the why, so that was just more like, trying to test. I mean, okay, I can't overlook it. So I think the first 2 weeks was just more like, let's see how it will go. This is more like, I already obeyed, I applied, but I got this, and it was more like, with at this point, things I was doing work around ministry, I was at a point also doing that, was coordinating, within the local church, the Bible study as well, and doing all of those things and seeing this, and that kind of, people. So it was more about God just pointing at me, that guy, you are proud. You're proud, so
Wow.
yeah, yeah, and I mean, he took that process for me to realize that even with all I was doing, that pride was still locked within my heart, and it was something I needed to deal with. So yeah, of course, it took, like I said, the 2 3 weeks of the program, entering the program, for me to, have that dealt with in my heart. So I was still pushing through on the pain. I know I have to do this. So, but that pushed me through getting to that point, and allowing God to deal with that half part of me, humbling my heart, coming to that point of me. I can, one of the first assignment we did, the kingdom mindset, that was very, very transformative for me. It was like the starting point, because going through that, I needed to, okay, it was more like God just taking out throughout all the courses generally, because I stayed, one of the powerful things that helped me to was staying a lot in the place of meditation, connecting it, because in receiving it as a commandment, I knew it was speaking to my season, and it was speaking to who I was to become. I knew it was speaking, to me being prepared for the things God has prepared for me in this new territory. I knew it was a point of, okay, you know what, go through these query site. There is a finer to come out of this. There's the need for us to remove the dross, and one of those things that, I mean so many things, was first that issue of pride. And it was just so, tricky, that that I felt more like, oh really, that point, like, as when God just pointed at that, which is there. So yeah, going through that experience, and then aligning the refiner's furnace, coming forth, and then yeah, was something in terms of how transformative really the experience was for me. Then talking in terms of like the evangelism, I remember also again going through to evangelize, and at that point, to that experience also birthed something. that, in we going, when we looked at the tracks, we had to use hand on hand, in the manner of the way I've understood the message of the kingdom, just realizing that this thing is not for this territory. This thing is not, there is, it's not there. So God took myself and my wife on this journey of, okay, coming up with that you came up. I'm coming to this year as well, about, okay, we doing something around that ascribes, around, uh, presenting the kingdom message in such a way that, speaks to the culture, speak to the people, that, you're able to just, communicate the gospel without condemnation, communicate the gospel, without any form of bias, without any form of, just thinking that these people cannot be saved and all of that. So there was that came as well, more like instruction from that experience. And so it was very helpful going out there, and of course to assess materials that are available, and could also just see maybe the reason why things are being there also in the climate. And talking about the accountability trackers, I mean, that was it was a good way, to not just only beyond my own personal meditation, but to realize that, okay, what, I have things I have to be committed to. And one of the things that helped me really was more of breaking down the commitment, breaking down the things I needed to do to actionable bits. I I I am kind of and I'm largely analytical. So I had to like sort of break down all that is required, going through the modules. Okay, how many hours this was going to take, how much will this take. So I splitted many of those things, across days, across, time zones, and that would help me. One of the challenges I also had later on in the program was the fact that, there was a change in the time zone. So 12 a.m. was no longer 12 a.m., it was 11 p.m. So there was those having to change that. But breaking down the commitments, breaking down the deliverables required of me, and okay, knowing, having commitment to it, of course, being dogmatic with writing things down, just making it, I mean, simplifying it such that every single day I knew there was something I had to do on ILDP. Was just, I mean, talk about the Tuesday and Thursday's prayer. I
Yeah.
mean, okay, kudos also to my wife on this, because when we got their calendar, we had to paste it, in our on our wall, had to, okay, set alarms, three different types of alarm. You have the one that wakes you up 30 minutes before the time, 15 minutes before the time. At least you shall have to wake up, that kind of stuff. So it was just me about like put systems in place to help you walk through it, and it
I love it.
was really helpful to just go through that. For me, art humbling, the hammering experience, and of course going through the refiner's furnace to become this version of me that is prepared. Of course, so many things has happened. Some things are also shaping up, into the territory, resuming, also for entering a space. One of the assignments was very helpful in that, just being able to connect all of that to what is also currently shaping out, what I'm doing in the territory now. That's the mountain of influence assignment about, the prototype of your
Yes.
own life. You're getting a med. I mean, that was very powerful. I never thought of it like that, never really, but going through, because I've always, believed in purpose and all that. So coming from the journey of purpose discovery, having my purpose statement, what I'm called to do, which has bettered some of the things I'm doing, even within the agricultural sector, in ministry and all of that. So that was helpful for me, having that sort of structure, and one of the things also ILDP has maybe, to be big on structure, systems, and strategies.
I
It's
love
just so powerful that each time I'm doing it, and for me, that talks me again, helping me coming back to the point of meditation, because you have to think, and thinking is really what gives quality and the impact of our life, really. Being able to think deeply, and not just only thinking about, oh, just be go deep down, there is more. And one thing also I needed to say was the first confession during the first meeting, we have the finisher's anointing. So that
it.
was
Yeah. I
something
love it.
I
I
kept on
love it.
reminding myself, I have the finisher's
Oh,
anointing.
so
Even
good.
when it was, I had to remind myself, I have the finisher's anointing. I've committed.
Yes.
I've laid my hands on the plow. I'm not looking
Yeah.
back. I'm not looking
I
back.
love it. Wow, you almost ran us through a master class within these conversations, right? And I know there is so much weight of insights that we would also pull through from our fellow siblings. Come on now. Exactly. We have the finishers anointed. You said a lot, and I will just sit into it briefly so that I can
Okay.
have our siblings share. I love that you emphasize the power of meditation, right? It was so insightful. The power of meditation, right? Not just carrying alongside the work, sorry, alongside the program, just to rush through to submit the assignment, but you committed to the process, right? Meditating, leveraging your mental arsenal, right,
Yeah.
to
Yeah.
receive what the Lord was downloading through the program. The second is you were able to also show us the connecting dots with how
Yeah.
God instructed you to come on board ILDP and what is currently manifesting in your life right
Yeah.
now with the transitions, with the assignment into the new territories, and
Yeah.
even with the anointing and the mandate over you and your wife as scribes in the territory that you're in,
Yeah.
which is so powerful. So it also confirms that you will come into ILDP, right, as you are, but there is an ongoing work that the
Absolutely.
Lord is powering
Yeah.
through I would say, the mandate of ILDP and through the Spirit during the course
Yeah.
of the program.
Yeah.
The third also that you also shared was, leveraging the power of intercession and how you are to create systems, set the alarms, right? This is, I'm
Yeah.
sure, a word of advice to everyone tuning in that there is no excuse. You had your wife also being the extra backup alarm, right?
Yeah.
If the alarm
Yeah.
doesn't work,
That
the
would,
your wife was there,
yeah.
waking you up 30 minutes before prayer time. Very powerful. And another exciting thing that I want to lay on it is the more exciting thing about ILDP is that it's also now a transitioning pipeline
Yeah.
into our
Absolutely.
kingdom councils. And this in this present core that we're getting into, that is the ILDP 5.0, you would get that opportunity to really understand how you can then transition into partnering with us and the kingdom work that would be ongoing at the kingdom councils. So there will be that great transitioning pipeline happening from ILDP into the kingdom councils, right? So even for our past core Okay. For our past, okay, good, excellent. For our past core members, or alumni members, kingdom leaders who have been a part of ILDP, also just know that the clarion call around how you can then transition into kingdom councils will be made. So be on, I would say be on your rampant, be on your guard. When you hear the clarion call, you will definitely heed that call. The final thing I wanted to then sort of layer on quickly was also the insight you shared around, the evangelism outreaches and how that was a powerful confirmation of the assignment that you're currently working in. So thank you so much, Ifeoluwa. Now let's have Dr. Nathan share with us, and then we'll move on to Timilola and then Adetola. All right, over to you, Dr. Nathan.
All right, thank you. So, in terms of accountability, what I leveraged on was, I just ensured that I studied, when thankfully, like they shared details ahead, help you plan and all. So, I just ensured that my calendar was filled with, okay, this is happening on this date, this is happening on this date. And then for the prayers, I set my alarm, okay, 5 minutes earlier so that I am able to at least catch my breath, or if I'm sleeping, wake up and then join in on time. Another thing that I really took out from ILDP is the workbooks. right? For me, it was really instructive because as I filled them, I was able to unpack the questions that you have to really sit with them, right? And just unpack things that you may not be aware of. I think for me, particularly, one that I can never forget is the workbook on the 7S, right? Before now, when we set goals, like, different aspects of our life, our spiritual goals, one thing that I took out of ILDP is that when I'm setting spiritual goals, I'm no longer setting, oh, I want to pray more, I want to do this, but I now set it based on the 7S: as a son, as a servant, as a shepherd, as a saint, as a steward, as a shareholder, as a soldier, So because I also lead a group of people, so in fact, one of the things we did was just reorganize our structure, and we knew that God had asked us to really dive into discipleship. But me, even now, coming into, 'cause we're praying about it for a long time. And so joining ILDP gave us the clarity on, okay, this is exactly what you ought to do. This is how to navigate it. And so for me, I'm just so grateful to God for that 7 years, because it opened my eyes, opened my mind up to see that spirituality is, setting spiritual goals is not just, oh, pray more, fast, read my Bible, but there is more, right? There is more, and you can open up your heart. You can just enlarge, as who you are already in Christ, in sonship, as a steward, as a shepherd, the people that God has, put in my care, right? Just there's just a lot more. And guess what? Like, I just updated the systems around my life, right? I believe a lot in systems. So I just ensure that I updated the system around my life completely, such that, okay, there's an update now, right? So, and even till now, like, so I have reminders, as a shepherd, so this week, what have you done, right? The people that are in your care, like, how have you shepherded them? Yeah, so I believe a lot in structure. So even in our and thankfully, ILDP 4.0 ended like towards the end of the year, so it was just a good time to sit into it, to plan this year, right? And say, what are we doing differently? Take the time to really say, these things we've learned, how are we carrying it forward? How am I passing it on to other people? I think another thing I would say that is still with me in ILDP is that, it's beautiful to talk about the spiritual emphasis, right? But I also believe, because of the leadership aspect of it, and that brings to fore the soul dimension of the teachings, right? It brings to fore the soul dimensions of the teachings. And for me, it's also something that's has stayed with me. How do you treat people? How do you care for people? What's your heart like? Those things, they stay with you like for the rest of your life. If God brings people to you, what are you passing on? You can pass pain to people, you can pass shame to people. And if you are saying that you are a leader, it's a huge responsibility. And in fact, you have to join ILDP if you know that God has called you to be a leader, because you have to steward well. There's something that I heard years ago, that if you learn something wrong and you pass it on to one person, it might take like four generations before you can correct that thing, right? Because people just keep passing it on and think that is the ideal. So it's good to come to platforms like this, that, and it costs you nothing than just for you to be dedicated to it. In fact, if they're going to put a tag, a price tag, I wonder what's going to be. But it's something that for the rest of your life, you will never regret it. You'll be better off for it. You will steward well, the things that God has called you to do, the capacity that you need to develop. Uh, because at different stages of our spiritual life, everything is in phases and stages, and there's always room to, break out your wineskin, right? Take this as that this is an opportunity to break your wineskin for new wine to come in, because we know that you can't pour new wine in old wineskin. So there's so much to be done, right? And this is just a beautiful avenue, right, to be able to do that. Nothing is, I there's something I always tell myself, that, pero, it's all a mind thing. If you tell yourself I can do it, you will do it. It's in the mind. It's first in the mind. If you say I'm going to do this thing, I can assure you that everything, your life, your spirit, your soul, your body will align to say, oh, this person is dedicated to this thing. Let's get the memo and just adjust ourselves. So I think that's it for me. Thank you.
Powerful. I love it. Again, she said it, it's all in the mind, right? And he said something, we're all in different spiritual phases, right? And that's what ILDP introduces us into. You remember your discipleship course. You would even, after you've taken your mantle of influence assessment, you would then, and there's another assessment you take that helps you, that helps determine your the spiritual discipleship cord. And even with that, we saw some people saying, oh, maybe I'm a pastor, and they found themselves at, maybe, is it infancy? And people were just wondering what's going on. And we're like, it's not a, in that sense, a determinant of your, is it spiritual ranking, right? Or
Yes.
rather, with humility, like Olua said, right? God breaking that backbone of pride and just saying, come in, right? And wherever, based on the assessment, the data driven assessment, you are placed into that cohort, and they just respond to that discipleship process. And that's what has happened and continue to happen. The second thing that you also sort of re-echoed was the power of systems. I love how you hinted on taking the 7S. And again, if you want to know what the 7S is all about, get on board the moving train. Join ILDP. Team, please place the links right in the chat box so that everyone can see that, yes, it's open to everyone and anywhere, regardless of whether you're a pastor, a ministry gift. As far as you have the call of God, every one of us has the call of God upon our life. So please join the train, come on board the discipleship program. Now, you entered on the power of the 7S, and how you have incorporated that 7S into how you pray. Wow, that was just mind blowing. Look at the critical conversions, right? And that's at a level. We're going to see again, I will emphasize the transitioning pipeline into our kingdom councils, because that's again one of our biggest critical conversing engines within KGA. The final thing I also wanted to hint on is, many people will say, hey, I follow PDDK. I'm looking forward to an opportunity to be mentored by her. Come on board ILDP. Every module was facilitated by PDDK. And even in some of the intercessory tracks that happens weekly, we would have PDDK join us. And even if she doesn't join us, the spirit of the house, right, has been passed on, right? And there are systems running this. So you are seeking the pathway to be discipled, to be mentored by PDDK, join ILDP, right? Just like Dr. Lathan said, if we were to place a premium pricing on this, we will say it's been paid by the blood. And we're saying, come join in. Hashtag paid by the blood, covered by the blood, right? And all you need to do is come on board and commit to the process. And just like we said, when you come on board the orientation phase, when you register and you meet the application requirements, and then you receive your admission letters, get into the orientation, onboarding and orientation call, there is a powerful mantra or statement we usually make. You have the finisher's anointing. And that was what Ifeoluwa, our valedictorian, carried on from the beginning till the end of the program. And he's still leveraging that hashtag. So thank you so far for the insights pulling through. Thank you so much. Let's move on quickly to Temilola and then Adetola. Okay, Temilola, over to you. You're muted. Please go ahead to mute. Thank you. All right,
Can you
sister,
hear me,
speak
ma?
now.
All right.
Yes, we can
Thank
hear
you
you
so
now.
much, ma. So for me, see I see ILDP as a mirror that will reveal yourself to you. You know, when Director Toyin was mentioning that aspect of assessment, and I saw myself in the cohort that I began to ask myself, oh, what have I been doing all these years that I was born again? I saw myself, and ILDP will make us it will make you understand the difference between being a believer or just going to church.
Hmm.
You will see yourself, you will see where you are in your spiritual journey. And that was what happened to me. I, at at some point of listening to those modules, I will just pause and I will just be thinking, what am I really doing? Am I really no? I was just asking myself questions. What am I really doing? What have I been doing with my life? What have I been doing with my spiritual journey? Where, what have I been hearing about being a believer or being a son, a steward? What have I been doing with my life? So I see LDP as a program that everybody, whoever wants to grow in their spiritual journey, they just need to plug into it. They need to plug into it. Then another thing that LDP taught me is leadership. In fact, I can say that ILDP is more of leadership than discipleship. Because the modules they focus people, even also leading yourself as a person. Self-leadership. He taught us self-leadership. He taught me self-leadership and how I can also lead other people. And I saw leadership in a new light. I saw leadership as a responsibility. It's not just a place that you just want to be to show or to say that I've arrived. I saw it as a responsibility. And since I did this program, whenever I'm being called upon to lead a thing, I first of all ask myself, can I do this? Because now that I understand leadership in a new light, then I want to ask myself, can I do this before I get myself into it? If I'm not going to do it the way God wants me to do it, then I'll rather not do it at all. LDP that gave me this understanding to know that leadership is not what you just do anyhow. It is responsibility. And I want to say that ILDP is designed in a way that it will touch every aspect of your life. Every aspect of your life. Um, Most especially stewardship. Since I attended this program, I'll be asking myself all the things that God has committed into my hands. How am I managing it? How am I stewarding this? So I became very careful on how I manage even relationship, how I manage my resources, everything that God has committed into my hands. So I will just highlight some of those things that I learned from ILDP. Just like I said, I learned leadership, I learned stewardship, and I also understand that I'm also a partner. Just because I want to collect from God or just because God is my father, then I run to him every time. Partnering with him. I'm not asking him, God, what is your mission on it? What are you trying to accomplish on it? Just God with you. So LDB taught me that I'm in partnership with God. I'm not just there for I'm not just in relationship with God just because there's something I want to get from him. I'm also in partnership with him. So it deepens my relationship with God. And I can say that there's an impartation. I was imparted in a way by it,
Yes.
within ILDP. Yes, it deepens my relationship with God. He gave me an understanding of God and even my own identity. I
Yes.
I I have more deeper knowledge about God and even myself. So there are lots of things that I learned, but let me just.
Thank you so much, Temilola, for unpacking the life transforming lessons and insights from ILDP. And many people may say, what is ILDP? It is DDK's intensive leadership and spiritual discipleship program. And we are currently in its cohort 5 edition, in that sense, 5.0 edition. So thank you so much for sharing, Temilola. You said something that was so powerful, when you started sharing, and it was the fact that ILDP is a mirror, right? It just opens you up to who you are and who you are becoming. So thank you for that. Over to you, Dr. Nathan. Okay, Dr. Nathan has shared. I think we're supposed to have um, Adetola share with us. All right. So I am now putting it back in the hands quickly of everyone tuned in at the moment. Please know that you have the opportunity to ask your questions. So if you have any question burning in your heart, please go ahead to type it in the comment section and we'll take on that question. If you need any other, maybe further clarity around applying or registering to come aboard ILDP, please pop up your questions in the chat box and we will be, of course, ready to provide responses to that. All right, so let's jump into it again. Now, I wanted to share with us. I know that from the alumni seated in here, um, many of you are, I would say, family oriented, and most of you had your families, that you were either leading, and of course, caring for in the course of ILDP. Now, I want you to share with us intentionally, what were your winning strategies in the course of the program? And after the program ended, share some of the winning strategies you deployed that you have now institutionalized as a system, right? And of course, which helped you stay excellently focused from the start to the end of the program and has shaped you into the person that you have become today. So, and just to top that, share with us the growth you experience in the different areas of your life: spiritual maturity, personal development, building new relationships from ILDP, right? And of course, post ILDP. So, starting with the follower, and we'll move on like that. Thank you.
All right. Thank you once again. Yeah, just going through that and reflecting in terms of what that's been for my family. Of course, my wife and I, we did the program together, but I've not mentioned we had a son. One was think about 1 year, yeah, October. So it was during the program that we did the first year, our birthday anniversary. So it was, I mean, we are just learning the crude of parenting at that time too. And it was really helpful because at that instance, at the back end of many things that was happening at that point was more about what legacy you're going to be doing. And I think one of the major things was also more like even beyond, I mean, understanding the power of documentation. And the idea of what I meant with that is, yeah, we're clear on what God was sending out to do, but it has to be written down. It has to be documented. It has to be also revisited. And I think that was something that was also, amplified throughout the program, not just, writing down, having your journals, but you have to revisit. And, that was one practice, I took away from ILDP, even checkmating with so many things, personally, I think for more than over a decade now, have been journaling, have been documenting, writing things I believe God has, told me right from undergraduate days, So as going back to those things, check, because God speaks from eternity, right? I receive it in time. So trying to, the things I've, written down over time, seeing, and it was in the process of doing all of that, you could see that there is something that stayed constant. And it was one habit, in terms of like what winning strategy. So for me, revisiting those things, and it's just sometimes, the way we attend programs, conferences, we even write a lot of notes, but you don't go over all of these things. So I learned that powerful, habit of, just revisiting and, trying to see how that God has been coming. In fact, in going through it, I personally realized that what God has been saying has been towards a direction. So it was easy. You remember when I mentioned about transition? So it's easy to see it from the bigger picture how the old now connects with the new, and okay, what was needed. Okay, build systems, build structure, and then develop strategies. And that also, flew. I mean, there was a flow of that into our own part. I mean, family life as well. Our prayer, devotion. At the point we had what we call prayer projects. And it was just really interesting. How that as being to be committed to just powerfully and prayerfully praying for people, praying for issues, and being watchmen where God has deployed us. The other thing also, personally, in terms of personal development, I mentioned that the other time about being big on system structures and strategies, such that so currently now in my life, working in project management, but now transiting into policy, which is part of like some of the things that's also happened even for me professional wise as well, because in understanding the blueprint, understanding like the things God wants to have done and what is required of me. So building and developing that competency skills, and also being able to just deploy myself, for what God wants to do, which was one of the things that the Mountain of Influence assignment did, because there was that clarity that came as to, okay, what, all these things has happened to prepare you for this. So it was also a point where back end of that, before I mentioned this, there's been a prayer that was like being prepared for what God has prepared for me. So it was also during that LLDP I was able to see that connection point of what God was preparing me for and what He has prepared for me in church. So it was about being prepared for the things God has prepared for me. So, and seeing all of that works, it's just, and that deepen again my faith in God, conviction, because let me use the word, I sort of can believe God blindly, but beyond just believing, there's the point of now understanding the logic of it, understanding that with faith there is the rationale, there is the point of, you could see, it's not just, yeah, it is okay. Like I started with that, so it's more like I just believe God to be true and real, but then beyond that there is the added knowledge, like Paul was writing, they had zeal but without knowledge, but there is the knowledge dimension that has been added, and with that knowledge has also come understanding. So there are understanding of views and matters. I don't just view issues at the surface, again, which is one of the things about the issue, the power of meditation, because I'm able to reflect, I'm able to think deeply, the way I handle issues and matters. And these things are in the last 12 months as well, particularly, or let's say 8 months, there are about some issues that have crop up in some professional settings that have been even at church and all, and the way that the matters were handled, and the way people were like, how did you come about it, was, I mean, I was just like, well, I know something that changed because it was through ILDP. The way you view situations, the way your perception just changes. You're not just looking at judging things on the peripheral. There is that depth. So there is that depth that comes from just being understanding God's agenda. And then all along before, I've never been denominationalism, and I love that. Each time PDDK was always talking, it's not about denomination here. It's about the army that God Himself is rallying. It's about being commissioned. It's about
Yes.
understand that we are many parts in one. So for me, that was something like encountering that spirit, and then so everywhere I find myself is just about, Father, are we of the same tribe? Are we of the same lineage? And then just being
Yes.
able to partner with people, push on the work of God, and that's been very, very, very helpful. And being able to, join God in what He's doing, and being able to also encourage others to do the same. So during ILDP, I was by virtue of one of what things I do with young people here. So there was a 90 days purpose discovery challenge that we were on, and ILDP coming on was just something that was very powerful too, because of the period I was in before I joined ILDP. One of the ways I was dealing with it was more sort of to be sort of isolated, because I feel more like God was calling me to, like, a long time and all of that. So there are things like, people that were more like, looking up to me, that I just feel like, well, if you can't, like, come, like, I can't be the one following that up. But there was, during one of the modules, it was just about the fact that God has raised you, such that you are also to raise some people. So He called me back to that point of, following through with some of them. Some, in fact, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, I've not been in touch with. And, just realizing how much more they calling them, even being in touch with them, and, how things are shaped, since that November and October last year. And now, in fact, some about what they're doing and what God has done in the space of coming back in. So I was just helpful, because at that point I felt more like, let me get things right on my own. Like, I can't juggle this together. But I discovered something powerful, which is being trained as an agriculturist was the way I could explain it. That the way plants grow, two different opposite direction at the same time. So while God calls me to Himself, there is also the need for me to grow upward. So there is both the downward growth and the upward growth at the same time. But so I just realized that I was just so much focused on the downward growth. I want to get things right, but then without that point of the leaves, the branches bearing forth fruit. And so ILDP was helpful to connect that, and all there was the leadership consecration, and how DDK was emphasizing on that. And it sort of makes so much sense to me, because I saw myself in that light, and I was just able to understand that dynamics. And then, of course, with caution as well, with where I am in my journey, just being able to also do what I could for others. Yeah. Thank you.
Wow. Powerful. Thank you for sharing
I
again.
think that's still the network.
All right. Thank you so much. Very powerful, relatable, pragmatic strategies you're sharing with us. Before I pass on the baton to Tebilola, I want you to hint on some insights around how you surmounted challenges, or challenges you faced in the course of partaking um, the ILDB 4.0 program. Was it, were there times where you almost felt like giving up? And what was it like? How did you, snap out of that? What systems did you put in place? Who were you able to reach out to? Because I also wanted to not, sound like, all our alumni are just talking about systems, structure. And I can see people are saying, well, currently in my life, I don't, IDP is looking as though it's for people who are truly committed. Of course, you have to be committed. But
Yeah.
come as you are. Ifeoluwa spoke to that, at the beginning. But I wanted to now relate it to how you how you overcame challenges that came through in the course of the program. So I will have you answer that quickly, and then we'll pass on the baton to Timilala, and then Dr. Nathan answering the holistic questions as that. Over to you, Ifeoluwa.
Okay, I think the direct thing will just be to keep things simple, really. And I believe the beauty of life is in its simplicity, and it's more about understanding the demands. So when I received like the curriculum to understand what the demands, okay, what is required, and then I did a breakdown, to actionable bits. For instance, when for assignment, I I have like the approach to assignment. For instance, I don't rush to do it. I look at it, then I start to think about it. Because for me, the thinking part gives me clarity to understanding what to do. So that way, even though I know, okay, I have like 2 weeks to do this assignment, so the first 1 week about the assignment, I'm only thinking about it. I'm only okay thinking, okay, you know what, how do I get this done again? Meditating about it. So breaking it down again, how many hours, how many minutes, is the module itself. Okay, can I, while on the bus, while, because there are ways, talk about time management. And I think the whole issue around time commitment is more about like time management. And I think Dr. Lepero talked about prioritization the other time. Once we value things, there's a way we prioritize it. So it's just more about finding those crunch time, you know, to get into like make this work. So while on the bus, you commute, you're traveling, you can listen to it. For me, there was a commitment that, what, before I sleep. So, and mostly because I'm more of a night person. So, and of course, I had also a 1 year old baby together with my wife. She was on a PhD program at that moment, so it was also very demanding. So there was a point that, okay, while the baby is at sleep, I made commitment that, before I sleep, there are things I had to cover. Okay, so it was just me, and I think there's a place of discipline to be sincere, that comes with the commitment to it. So, but keep things simple, understand the demands, make you need to make adjustment, reduce time. Let me speak on this. Reduce. You need to take time away, social media, in order to do this. You need to also, maybe do Netflix. You need to cut off those time. There are distractions. Such that, you just, I think it's just more about like have that consecrated time that, okay, you know what, let me take away the frivolities, let me take away the things that don't help me to get these things that I need done. So doing those things, take away those things that, like you can live without, that they are the extras. Let me use that language, that they are the extras that are not the, the tiny bit of life. So but simplify things, don't make life complex. Have a routine that works for you. Your own might not be the night, it might be maybe early in the morning, wake up early, and all of that. It's just keep it simple. Yeah, keep it simple. Yeah.
I love it so much. Thank you so much, Ifeoluwa. Keep it simple. And he has also, also hinted on the principle of, habit stocking. So as it was on the bus, commuting, it was also tuning in, listening into the modules, right? And he had a dedicated time, every night where he could ensure that he was committed to catching up with the lessons, with the modules, with the assignments, on a weekly basis. So thank you, Ifeoluwa, for sharing that. Keep it simple, no complications, and of course, cutting off all other extras or distractions, as the case is. Now let's move on quickly to Temilola and then Dr. Nathan. Okay, I think Adetola is back. So let's have
All right,
Adetola
ma.
share. Okay, before I come to Timilola, let me have Adetola share. Right? She's been making all necessary efforts to, rejoin, and we commend that. Thank you. Thank you
Thank
so,
you.
so much. All right.
Thank
And
you,
I
ma'am.
think Adetola is fully back, and we're excited about that. So let's have Adetola first, and then we'll move to Timilola and then Dr. Nathan. All right.
All right. Thank you so much, JCB, ma. So I didn't hear the question, but the previous questions,
Yes,
I'll just
just
to my
speak to the previous
experience.
question. Yes, please.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I joined ILDP 4.0 because I had joined KGA as a community, and I think I just got an email on a day like this, that there was something happening in the evening. But when I joined this ILDP 4.0 conversation, just listening to the leaders was so inspiring for me. I was in a place in my life where um, I am a mother of two children. I have like a 12-year-old and a 9-year-old, and work full time, running a business, co-pastoring with my husband, so many things going on. But I felt that there was a need for me to grow, but I didn't have any opportunity. There was nothing around me that could give me the expression. Like, I was hungry, but I couldn't find where to. So when I saw this, it was like, this is it. And listening to that conversation, then I learned a lot of things from those leaders. One of the things that really set me up for success, in addition, was just really taking that calendar for those 4 months and just putting it into every single day. Like, this is exactly what is going on every single day. Reminders, 6 hours before, 15 minutes before, 2 weeks before, all that system, really, really changed the game for me. And in terms of my learning from ILDP, I would say there were many things. One was character, just shining the light on who you are, and being placed in a cohort where you feel like, am I a child? But in that place, the light of God just beams on you into the things that others do not see. And so that was it for me. It was that place of seeing blind spots, gaps, and just realizing there was so much I didn't know. And God had called me to be a blessing to so many people. So I needed ILDP. That's what I realized, because I needed it to really learn and grow. And just thinking about the kingdom, I didn't really have a kingdom kind of like mindset. I knew that God had called me to do things, but just understanding the kingdom. And then, like, maybe like 2, 3 things I learned that really have changed my experience. One is, leadership consecration, really understanding what is consecration. God had called me, but I didn't really understand it in the depth with which I got during ILDP. Moving from, devotion to delight. I used to think that having that personal time with God was like, something that, you know, was just normal. I'll just do it, But I realized then that no, it's a responsibility. This is fellowship. Like, it's me and my father. It's an appointment. I can't say, oh, today I'm tired. I don't have time for that. No. This is my life. It's a calling. And I also learned call to arms. Call to arms really, really, that leadership call to arms. It helped me with two things. One, I was running a ministry with an intercessory ministry, and in that message, there was a time where DDK said someone was on this call, and you're having a ministry or something like that. It's time for you to stop and reassess. I thought I heard it. I was like, no, that's not for me. And then I heard it again. I listened to that message thrice, and I heard it again. I realized, no, this message is for you. God is saying, take a pause from this thing and reevaluate, restructure things, and then follow how and it's changed, it's really impacted me. And also it helped me with managing my team. When I joined ILDP, I was in a place where God has given me a vision to build a platform. So it was, UI, UX design, very early stages. Now, ILDP helped me to put the right structure, I was able to understand that this is kingdom. This is not ministry. This is not you. This is not some people. This is destinies, that being committed. You're a steward. Like, this ILDP for me was like, God was saying, I have called you to the nations, but you need to you don't know how to steward what I have called you to do. And so, there's so many things I learned, to be honest. But I also learned excellence. Just seeing how we'll get the emails, it's time to pray. I was like, this level of excellence, like, God brought me here to learn, excellence, so many things, to be very honest. But and then the evangelism was great as well. I met a sister in my city. I live in Lincoln. I met a sister. We went for evangelism together. Really, the whole experience prunes you and helps you to become who God has called you to. And I would say that maybe it's been one of the greatest experiences I've had. I gave my life to Christ when I was 11, and I've always followed the Lord. But ILDP was a place of shaping, pruning, breaking, like, it was just everything to really, really set your sail, to fulfill God's dream, the kingdom dream, the kingdom assignment. Yeah, it was such a blessing.
I love it. I need to just touch on something very powerful. ILDP is that threshing instrument, right? That's what she was saying.
Yes, ma'am.
Is that is it shapes and sharpens you, like, and you are like a bow, right? Shot out from the happening through ILDP. And that's why I said, even for every of our alumni and those incoming, as a transitioning pipeline into the kingdom councils, where there will now be critical conversions, right? Across catalyst pillars. So you're in policy, you're passionate about, the education sector, passionate about nation building, you're passionate about um, um, climate change and climate action, you're passionate about just anything you can think of around the impact areas, right? The kingdom councils gives you that, through thronged, I would say, approach to then convert the learnings that and the discipleship that you have grown into through ILDP, and then birth solutions. And you're not going to be doing this alone. You will then, of course, connect with other catalysts through the kingdom councils. So this is also a word of, I would say, encouragement to alumni, to say, still stay plugged in. Your work is not yet ended with us, right? We'll begin to make the call, ensure you connect, you sign up for to be a part of the kingdom councils. You also sign up to be a part of KGA, right? The larger army, if you're not yet a partner. And then, of course, continue to just stay plugged in. I know a question that most people often ask. I would answer a question, rather, I would pose a question from the honey drop to everyone in a bit. She asked such a very important question, but I would want you, our siblings, to speak to that question a bit. But what I wanted to touch on um, quickly, okay, it has eluded me. I'll come to it. Let's pass on the baton to Temilola and then back to Dr. Nath. All right, over to you, Temilola.
All right, ma. So for me, I I just like we were told when we were registering for ILDP, it was emphasized that it's intense. So I prepared my mind ahead. Though I was asking myself, how intense could it be? But the directors kept emphasizing that it's intense. And so because of that, I had to make up my mind to, I prepared myself mentally ahead of time. Then I make out time for it, because truly there's no time. But whatever we want to do, we just have to make out time for it. And that was what I did. Then another thing that I did was to put system and structure in place. Just like every other person has said, I put all the activities, I calendarize them 10, 15 minutes before the meeting, the morning prayers, the ignition call with PDDK. So those are the things that helped me. Though at a point I was very overwhelmed. I was overwhelmed, but I just thank God for the supporting system around me, in the person of my husband. Then there was a sister that I had that has already done ILDP. So she was part of ILDP 3.0. In fact, she was the first person that told me about ILDP. That was when I now made plans to also attend ILDP. So she was encouraging me. There was a time that I was very overwhelmed. I had to call her, Mama, I don't think I can continue with this thing. I am tired. So she encouraged me and she said I can finish it. And one thing I want to say here is that it was when I joined ILDP that I got to know that there's something called the finisher's anointing. I have never heard that
Yes.
before in my life. And I want to tell you that it really speaks. That anointing really speaks for it was an impartation of grace to finish whatever we are started. But because let me tell you, if no, if somebody tell me that I'm going to sit that here this evening, having a conversation about LADP, I will say no, it's not me. Even when they were telling us during the conversation that we had that you can get an award, I was like, let me just do this thing and just go. I'm not pursuing any award. Let me just do this thing and just go, because just like I said, that season of my life, I wasn't ready for anything. But just because God said do it, I just had to obey. Then I put myself into it. Then one thing that I also did was getting an accountability partner. But before I talk about my accountability partner, my husband was also a supporting system. Even though he wasn't with me at that time, we were not staying in the same city, but he was encouraging me even from where he was. I remember I was having an issue with network. So I already have modules piled up, and I was like, how am I going to do this thing? So he just gave me an advice. He said, see, if afternoon does not work for you, just switch to night. Because if your network is not okay during the day, then switch to night. Whatever you want to do during the day, do it. If you can rest, take your time to rest, then wake up in the night and that really accountability partner. Immediately accountability partner, immediately the cohort group was set. Though I didn't reach out immediately, but few weeks later I reached out on the cohort group, and I asked. I was looking for. I was in a need of an accountability partner, and a sister reached out to me, and I can tell you now that that sister is now a dearly beloved sister to me. So, and it was this ILDP that actually brought us together. Though we were together in KJ, we were in the same family, but we didn't get to know each other. So ILDP brought us together, and she reached out to me, and I said,
So good.
okay. And I can tell you, it was that guy, she was a great help. In fact, my last assignment, I forgot. No, I didn't forget, but miscalculated the submission date. And I forgotten. I just okay, okay. We were supposed to submit today, so I was calculating for it to be tomorrow. I'm just making an analogy here. So she reached out to me. Sis, how far have you submitted your assignment? I said, which assignment? Is it not so day that we are going to submit? She said, no, that is due today. I said, wow, because just like Fiolua have said, as rightly said, when I see the assignment, I don't just do it immediately. I will read it, then I'll be thinking about the answer that I'm going to, but I make sure that I submit my assignment and also my accountability tracker on time. So those are the things that help me. But truly, that accountability partner, she was there for me. It was like iron sharpened iron. We were there for each other, and
I love it.
you know, yeah. So then, just like I said, the anointing there was and I want to say that there's a way the modules are designed that uh it is like a progress. It is progressive. So when you
Yes.
listen to one module, you just want to listen to the next one. So I was
Next
so
one.
curious that whenever I finish the first, so I'm already waiting for the next one. What is in that next one? In fact, so
Yes.
the lessons were progressive that you just want to stay to the end. And I'm so grateful for PDDK for putting those things together. Thank you, ma.
Oh, powerful. I love how you sat into the power of accountability, because I'm sure many people may be asking, beyond the accountability trackers, am I able to, also, reach out to a sibling within the court and have that person journey alongside me? in the program. And yes, right from the onboarding and orientation call, we had people just jumping. This is my country. This is my stuff. If you can remember, even when we had there was a meeting call where we sat into insights around the evangelism outreaches and the modular modus operandi around the evangelism outreaches and all. We had people just connecting across the globe, and if we were to ask people who have been part of ILDP to share how they have built relationships from ILDP, the stories are countless, they are endless, right? And that's just so powerful. It's also beautiful to see that our siblings, joining us on this call are also partners within the larger Kingdom Leaders Global um, Alliance community, either as a family partner or a vision partner. So they are not just plugged in as partners, they are taking it a notch higher to come on board the leadership and discipleship program. And truly, just like every one of our siblings have highlighted, ILDP will groom you, will school you, will build you up as the kingdom leader, kingdom class. Let me use the word that PDK uses, kingdom class leader, right? Within the spheres of influence that you'll be called into. And beyond even being raised into that kingdom class leader, you also get to understand the tenets of discipleship. And we understood it as not just going out there to evangelize and disciple, but also creating systems. There were many systems of discipleship. Parenting is a discipleship tool, right? And even and on and on and on like that. So thank you. So let's all move on quickly to Dr. Nathan. Then we take in questions from the participants or from our those who are tuned in, and then we'll wrap up the conversation tonight. So over to you, Dr. Nathan.
All right, thank you very much. So I want to say this for like DTB said, that it might be sounding like everybody's talking about systems and structures, but I think one thing that also works is that there was consistent and constant communication, right? You are going to get emails. So those emails for me like were really important and they helped me. So even if you want to take it per week, right, you get emails to say, okay, this is happening this week, right? Note this date, so you could, so that you don't feel like, oh, this is a lot and all, but there's actually so much support you would also get to be able to complete. I just thought I needed to say that so it doesn't look like, oh, these guys are perfect, they have it all figured out. you know there's just always a way around it. The second thing I'll talk about is she asked about family. So very important to ask for help, right? Very important to ask for help when you need help. So I had help, in my family, my husband, because everyone knew that okay, this was something I wanted to achieve, right? So I was able to just get help, ask for help, right? So that I was able to see it through as well. Um, Something okay. One other question DTB asked was, how did this affect all the different aspects of of our lives, right? So in terms of spiritually, right, even while ILDP was going on, I got into a place spiritually where I now started to feel like, um let me call it metamorphosis, like changing skin, right? So I believe ILDP was a catalyst, for me, right? It was a catalyst because I had to just quickly check, because I realized that as ILDP started, I started this like 70-day fasting and prayer, you know, and because just now as we're having a conversation, I'm like, a lot of things that ILDP bet in me, right? That at the time, sometimes you will not know what's happening. When you look back, I just had to check my calendar now and I realized, wow, you know, I just sensed that, oh, I needed to pray more, just and I did that not alone, even with my own, like my friends, my community members, we're able to do that. Um, and then towards the end of the year as well, now I can see that it was actually ILDP that served as a catalyst for that. The Holy Spirit
Yes.
took me to a place in my soul that I'd never been in. I'm telling you, taking me as far back as 25 years ago to begin to excavate. I'll call it soul
Wow.
excavation, right? To begin to open me up to see, oh, this is where you're coming from. This what happened, right? See why you are here. Okay, now let's drop this. These are the things we need to drop. These are the things we need to now start doing. These are the things we need to stop doing. These are the things we need to continue doing, right? So when coming to ILDP, it's just so important that you come spirit, soul, and body. I can assure you of that, spirit, soul, and body. It was, I think, during ILDP as well. I think there's certain things that I just felt like I needed to stop eating as well. I'd been in this space
Hallelujah.
before, in 2018, where I stopped taking soft drinks. But I think last year again, like I had even extra like layers to say, okay, this no longer, right? This no longer for me. So it cuts across every aspect of your life, as long as you don't come in to say, um I just want to do it, or I just want, but being, yes, spiritual and body, and just being open to what God is able to do in your life, right? Being able to just be curious, right? Just have that curiosity
Love
to
it.
say,
Yes.
what Holy Spirit, I'm here, like, let's see, okay, do your thing, let's see what will you make out of me with this experience, right? So I think that is really important as well. I believe I've touched all the questions.
Yes.
um
Yes, you've done it. Thank you
yeah.
so much, Dr. Nathan. Wow. This conversation, I would say, has been holistic. Yes, Linda, you're correct. IODP is a destiny defining development tool, right? And you will hear it a lot. It's a destiny definer. We heard it from Ifeoluwa saying it was a refining furnace. We heard it from Adetola saying it was a sharpening and pruning tool, right? We heard it from Timilola saying it is a mirror, right? Unveiling who you are, your true identity in Christ. And we heard it from Dr. Nathan showing us how she was able to create systems and structures in place, regardless of the fact that she was a new mother, and God used that season to really forge something powerful from within her. And really, this conversation has been insightful and truly life transforming. So, we're pulling this to a close. However, I want to encourage you that ILDP is a lifelong spiritual, I would say, spiritual development engine, that regardless of whether you have taken ILDP before, God can be saying to you again that your commitment every year is to come on board ILDP, and that to you, ILDP is that discipleship tool that God will use yearly to just grow you spiritually. So for some people, they may say, "Oh, does it mean if I take ILDP, I took IL or I came into ILDP last year or last cohort, I can't come on board this cohort?" No, if God is nudging you to, yes, you can. We have had disciples, kingdom class leaders amongst us who have not missed a chord of ILDP from inception till date. So that could be an instruction God could lay in your heart to commit to, and you must just heed to that call, to that instruction. Yes, DDTFA is just echoing. She's taking up the words away from my lips, in the comment section. Thank you so much. And of course, I must commend, the I would say the excellent, um, I would say, combination of our leaders within the ILDP team, from PDDK to myself, to DDTFA, to DDEFE, to I could name all of our ILDP lovers, every of the team members were just on ground. And again, I must make mention of our directors and our deputy directors who led intercessory prayers every week, and they will still commit to that process in this present court. So thank you to everyone who joined us in bringing ILDP to life. Now, here is our clarion call, and I would say in 60 seconds, each of you, I would want you to just, touch on a powerful charge. Exactly, Yudechi. If married people can do it, what excuse do I have as a single? I love it. I want you to touch on a powerful charge that encourages anyone who has received the instructions to come on board ILDP or who already has signed up for ILDP and is saying, what's next, right? Just touch on that powerful charge in 60 seconds. And as you're touching on that, I want you to answer a question that came from Oni Drop. She asked a very powerful question around how do you sustain the transformation beyond ILDP, right? So in doing that, just touch on that quickly. Thank you so much. Starting from Ifelua to Adetola to Temi Lola, and then to Dr. Nathan. All right.
All right. Thank you. On the question on how to sustain, again, without making rhetorics, keep it simple. Keep whatever it is you've taken out of ILDP, make it your life. I mean, DTB just finished saying about the fact that it's not an end. It's you at the beginning of the journey. It's a continuum. So, whatever it is you've taken out, and know that there are always updates and upgrades. So all other things falls on it, layer upon layer. And my own charge will be that if you're serious with destiny, if you want to grow deeper with the Lord, ILDP is the right place for you, irrespective of where you are in your journey. I think for me personally, it's the beauty of irrespective of where you are in your journey, God will meet with everyone. And for me, that's been the experience. God met with me, God met with my wife. And we've seen that and we are continuing in that journey. So I would say when you apply and you come on board, don't allow the first spiritual quotes be a discouragement. Go through with it. Okay, go through with it, be committed to it, and the blessing of ILDP is in the experience. Don't just try to make through to mark the attendance, to do the accountability trackers. Don't discount the experience by doing all of those things, but pour your heart into it, pour your soul into it. I also never imagined I'll be here. Like I mentioned before, I just wanted to give it my best. So give it your best shot with the mindset that anything that is worth doing is worth doing well, and you will just be amazed, even if the awards don't come. But I can guarantee you, because I never imagined any of the things that came with it. God himself, who is the ultimate rewarder, you will get the rewards, the soul cleansing reward, the soul transformation, the spirit recharge and revival. So please just commit to the experience. The blessing is in the experience. Yeah.
I love it. That's a quotable hashtag there. The blessing is in the experience. Please, I want to see that hashtag there. Lovely. Thank you so much for that profound charge. Over to you, Adetala.
All right, thank you very much, Ma. I think in terms of how to sustain the journey, discipleship is a lifelong, is a lifelong thing, right? But with ILDP, I would say from every encounter that you have, every session, every module, it's really taking away things that you start implementing immediately, changes that you start making immediately. So as you learn and I hope you have light in certain areas, really just implementing it, start doing it. As you start doing it, because it's that 4 months period, in that period it will then become part of your lifestyle, and then you can grow. And then even ILDP doesn't really end. I remember we were told if we wanted to keep listening to the recording, we could apply to do that, right? And I did that as well. And I listened to, some of the modules again and again and again, because it's just a lifelong journey. But if you start implementing and start doing and taking away just one thing, two things from each module at the very least, and you incorporate that into your lives, you see that transformation. In terms of a charge, I'll just anyone who's listening today as a child of God, ILDP had because ILDP is the spirit's work in the life of a man. It doesn't really matter where you are, whether it doesn't matter where you are. It's just an encounter. It's just almost like a fellowship, a time of fellowship with the Holy Spirit. So in that process, you are becoming who He has called you to be. And everyone can do it as well. One thing I would recommend is that, you deprioritize other things. That's what I did. I was doing other things as well. But in that season, I just decided it was just ILDP. Everything else was secondary. And also one other thing was that when I wanted to submit my assignment, I always felt like, oh my God, Tola is 11:50. You're just submitting now, right? And I always felt like I was in the last minute, like about to submit 11 p.m. Trying to submit. And in all these things, I give God praise because I never would have thought I would have even when I got my name, I was like, you're getting an award. Like how? Like I felt like I was the one that was maybe lagging behind. But the truth of the matter is that it's not really that case. So God's grace is sufficient for you. So you're welcome on board, and it will be, a transformational time for everyone that submits to what the Spirit of God. I think ILDP is an internal work. It's not about the outside. From the inside, that transformation happens, and then it begins to show on the outside.
Yes, powerful. Another quotable hashtag there. ILDP is the spirit work in the life of a man. Our alumni, just feel our kingdom class leaders now, right? And just to, please hear me, all right, just to, I would say, just to layer on what has come through, ILDP is just I've been saying it, is a transitioning pipeline into I've been saying that thing, into what? Into the kingdom councils, right? So it doesn't just end there. And beyond even the kingdom councils, we are now going, I don't want to go ahead of ourselves. There's something exciting also launching soon where our disciples, kingdom class leaders, will now become disciplers. But I won't run ahead of myself, right? Get into the court, and then we would unravel, what is ahead of us. And there's also advanced ILDP also coming in soon, right? But you have to do ILDP first, right? If you've not done it first, done it before. So thank you for that, Aditola. ILDP is the spirit work in the life of a man. Over to you, Temilola. Um, you have the floor, and then we'll pass on the baton to Dr. Nathan.
All right, ma. So for me, how I sustain the things that I learned in ILDP is to practice them. And the example I'm going to give is when PDDK taught us that we should pray, we should intercede for people. So everybody, almost everybody around me has become my prayer point. So when I see something in somebody that I don't really like, what I do instead of complaining, instead of grumbling, what I do is to pray for them. Then another thing that she said during the program that stood out for me was that if there's a vision that God has laid in your heart and you don't know how to go about it yet, then pray. Pray. You can stay in the place of prayer. And for me, I've been practicing that because there is a vision that God has laid in my heart. And even that was one of the reasons why I joined ILDP, for more clarity. There's a vision of that God has laid in my heart to teach singles. And I'll be praying to God, how do I go about it? How do I do this? How do I do this? And since I learned that, okay, if you don't know what to do yet, then pray. So I got myself into prayer. And from there, God has been telling me what to do. This is how you should go about it. This is how you should go about it. So for me, I practice what I learned, and that's how I'm sustaining, what I've learned from ILDP. Then another thing that I will say is that, I learned how to pray during ILDP. I learned how to pray. My prayer language changed during ILDP. So if I'm in a season of life that spiritually I'm a kind of down, I know what to do. I know what to do, unlike before, that I'll just be thinking what to do. So what I do is to go into fasting and prayer until I come out of that season, and I'm back on my feet. So the charge I'm going to give, maybe I should enroll, maybe just do it. DDK said something, PDDK said something, and she said, desires are whispers from heaven. So if you desire it, if it's coming to your heart to do it,
Yes.
don't hesitate. Just go ahead and
Yes.
do it.
Thank
Thank you.
you. Powerful. Just do it. I know you can never forget that Nike slogan. Just do it. And we're bringing it home here, saying the same thing. Just do what? Just do it. And just know that it's not accidental that you are in this conversation, tuned in. So this is your clarion call, right? You can't excuse yourself out of this. Just do it. Over to you, Dr. Nathan, as you
All
share
right.
your final charge. Thank you.
Thank you. So the first thing I would say, or what I would say to the person saying, "How do you sustain this?" is this: knowledge by itself is not power. Knowledge applied is power. Right. So that's it. That's how you sustain it. You apply immediately. Apply immediately. Because if you
Yes,
postpone, you might just
yes,
forget. Right. So apply immediately. And so, to anyone, that you want to join, but you're contemplating, what I would say is this: who you are at the beginning of ILDP, the version of you who is applying, and the version of you at the end of ILDP will be nothing compared. So if you know that there is more to you, if you know
yes,
that you are eager for more, if you know you are hungry for more, if you know that there are gaps that you need to cover quickly based on the version of you that you are now and who God has shown you, and you know that there's a critical mass, there's something that needs to happen, then jump in. Don't jump in and don't second guess yourself. Don't excuse yourself out of destiny. This is your opportunity. So just do it. Thank you.
I love it. Jump in, right? And she has given us a quotable quote as well. Knowledge by itself is not power. Knowledge applied is power, right? And we are unlocking applicable knowledge in ILDP. So I love it. Thank you to all of our alumni. Thank you to our siblings. Thank you for everyone who has stayed tuned in till this very moment. Now, here is your clarion call. Sign up. The links are scrolling on the screen, or rather, the link is scrolling on the screen. The link has been popping up in the comment section. Please go ahead to register. And of course, if you have any inquiries, emails, the email addresses in the caption or the description of this video. And you can write to us. We'll be here to respond to any of your inquiries. We love you. And just like my siblings are saying, we look forward to welcoming you at the onboarding and orientation call in a couple of weeks in July. So someone was asking when will it officially kick off? It will kick off in July. So be on the lookout if you have applied for your admission letters, and ensure that you pour yourself into the application process. Thank you all. Please confirm that you can hear.
No.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. Thank you all once again. Thank you all for joining in. Just like our alumni have said, conversed, shared, we look forward to welcoming you on board ILDP 5.0 in a couple of weeks. See you on the other side of greatness, and you have the finisher's anointing just as you're starting out with us. God bless you and enjoy the rest of your evening, morning, or afternoon. Bye for now.